Hello everyone, welcome to my full card prediction and breakdown for the entirety of UFC 296. I'll be going through every individual fight, starting with the prelims, ending with the main event. It's pretty simple to understand, but if you do want this in like a more typed out format, I do offer that in my member, so become a member today if you want some nice perks and all of that. But let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into these fights. Starting off with, we have Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikhov. I'm taking Randy Brown here. I think Muslim Salikhov has gotten a bit too old in his career now. He just come off a loss against Nicholas Dalby, which Dalby has looked pretty good. You know, he was able to beat Gabriel Bonfim, so the loss hasn't aged too well, but Muslim Salikhov right now is 39 years old, and he just seems like he's not going to be able to get on the inside of Randy Brown. Randy Brown's a very tall and rangy guy, and I think he's going to be able to stick at range and pretty much tag Muslim Salikhov. They both don't have the best of chins, but I think Muslim Salikhov's is way worse than Randy Brown's. Muslim Salikhov is fast, and he might be able to land that spinning wheel kick that he does, but I think Randy Brown will be too tall for that in the first place. And I think when it comes to a rangy guy and a guy on the outside, Randy Brown is that typical dude. And I think he'll be able to just piece up and tag up Salikhov, maybe do a little bit of clinch action and just kind of win the fight from there. Just overall, just outpointing and just wearing on Muslim Salikhov, who does gas in the later rounds as well. So I'm taking Randy Brown by decision. I'll say 29-28, maybe 30-27 decision. But moving on, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Martin Buday. I'm taking Shamil Gaziev. He seems like he has actual potential at heavyweight, whereas Martin Buday is just fat and old and just not really good, your typical run-of-the-mill heavyweight. And Shamil has at least a little bit of potential in that division. Coming off a rear naked choke win against a guy on the Contender Series who was 6-0. He beat Darko Stocic, which is actually a pretty decent win. I mean, this dude has pretty good wins at heavyweight so far. I mean, like, he actually has some potential, and I just have to pick him here. I don't know. Martin Buday just seems like, to me, he's just really ass. I hate to say it, man, but he's just not good in any sort of way. So I'm taking Shamil Gaziev here. Moving on, we have Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. I was really tempted here. I was really tempted to take the underdog in Lucas Almeida, but I think Andre Fili just has that grappling advantage. Lucas Almeida lost to Pat Sabatini in his last fight, and it seemed like he had a little bit of some takedown defense issues. And Andre Fili, if you don't know who he is, he does have that ability to get people down and wear on them and kind of beat them. And the striking, I mean, he knocked down Nathaniel Wood, and Nathaniel Wood is kind of an undersized featherweight, don't get me wrong, so it's not really hard to land big shots on him. He was already, like, if you watch that fight again, Andre Fili was the bigger guy, like, by far. Nathaniel Wood is not a featherweight. He is a bantamweight. I don't know why he doesn't cut back down to bantamweight. I know a weight cut is hard, but bro, like, when you're definitely outmatched on size, you have to be able to go down and actually cut some serious weight. But I love Nathaniel Wood. He actually lost to him, but Andre Fili is good, man. Arguably lost to Bill Aljo as well, won by split decision. It's just Andre Fili just has some iffy losses right now. He's technically on like a 5-4 fight losing streak right now, whereas Lucas Almeida has really good striking, and I think he can tag up Andre Fili on the feet, but I think the grappling is where this fight will be won. I think Andre Fili will be able to take advantage of that and get Lucas Almeida down and win by probably decision. I don't know. It's weird, man. But moving on to the card, we actually have a really underrated fight in Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. Now, I'm taking Cody Durden here. I think Cody Durden has looked very impressive in his last few fights. I mean, beating Jake Hadley, I think, is actually a really good win. Beating Charles Johnson, maybe has aged not the best so far, but is a very good win. Beating Carlos Mata, whatever. Beating JP Bays, again, whatever. Has not won a fight in the UFC, but Cody Durden has looked impressive with his grappling, and his pace has been very, very high. I think he can push the pace against Tagir Ulanbekov, but it does worry me, man, because Tagir Ulanbekov, it's Dagestani, man, and they typically have really good takedown defense. He wins by grappling a lot as well, coming off a win against Nate Maness, which is, again, not the best. Coming off a loss against Tim Elliott, which I think, Tim Elliott's that kind of guy where if you get past him, you're probably a top flyweight, but if you don't get past him, you're kind of floating outside of the rankings, maybe can get in the rankings, but I think Tim Elliott is that that main test where if you beat him, you're good. If you don't beat him, you're not that good. And Tagir Ulanbekov lost to him. Now, would I take Cody Durden to beat Tim Elliott? probably, yeah, at this point, I probably would take Cody Durden, because I think Tim Elliott is just, kind of getting old. It looked kind of weird against his last performance against, what was his name? Altamirano looked kind of weird against him, but I think Cody Durden just has the necessary. It's just weird, man. I think his pace will win in this fight. Cody Durden has just been extremely active, fighting every 3 months. I mean, this dude is. I love activity. I love activity. I think that benefits a lot of fighters. If you can stay healthy while you're being active, it just benefits you so much. I think he'll be more switched on than Tagir Ulanbekov, who hasn't fought in a year. So I'm taking Cody Durden by just being able to push the pace and just win those clinch exchanges, win those moments, just have the clinch, have the advantage, and be able to just land like knees to the thigh and just push a high pace and eventually kind of tire out Tagir Ulanbekov. But it does worry me, man. Tagir can probably land some nasty kicks on Cody Durden, but would I bet on it? Maybe, but I don't think Tagir just. It's hard, man. This is a hard fight to pick. I'm not gonna lie. I don't blame you for picking Tagir Ulanbekov, but I think Cody Durden just has that it. But moving on, we have Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jakoby. I'm taking Dustin Jakoby here, man. I think Alonzo Menifield is just a slow-paced kind of just land one-shot overhand right, big, powerful guy, where Dustin Jakoby is actually a really good kickboxer and will push a pace and will land shots, and just overall he is way more technical than Alonzo Menifield. Menifield just, like, of course he was winning. Actually, he did beat Jimmy Crute, and he was winning in that decision draw at one point. Just Alonzo Menifield just doesn't have enough for me. I don't know. He doesn't seem to just give me that, like, he's going to be something in the future kind of vibe. And the same thing can be said for Dustin Jakoby here, but he seems to just be able to perform better in his losses than what I've seen from Alonzo Menifield, even though Alonzo Menifield hasn't really lost that often. But I mean, against Azamat Murzakanov, like, Jakoby could have won that fight if he had a fucking brain. If he had a decent IQ, he could have beat Azamat Murzakanov. And in my humble opinion, I think he beat Khalil Roundtree. If you watch that fight back, I think he won against Khalil Roundtree. That was kind of a robbery, lost by split decision. But again, a close fight. He's fought better competition. Jimmy Crute has nothing on the feet, absolutely zero striking. He is probably the worst striker I've ever seen, a light heavyweight. So Alonzo Menifield, good job. You were able to drop Jimmy Crute, who has no striking ability, whereas just Dustin Jakoby, has all of that striking ability. I think Dustin Jakoby will get this one done pretty handedly. He might get dropped at one point. Who knows? He did get dropped by Azamat Murzakanov at one point. So it does worry me, his chin, because he is getting up there in age as well. But so is Alonzo Menifield. He's also 36 years old. So taking Dustin Jakoby to win, he'll just be able to outpoint Alonzo Menifield. Maybe probably get a TKO finish just by, putting on the pressure. But I think Jakoby just has an overall skill advantage. Moving on, we have Casey O'Neill versus Ariane Lipski, the first women's fight of the card. I'm taking Casey O'Neill. She has that like she wants to win. You know what I mean? Casey O'Neill has that that grit. Like when she fought Jennifer Maia, she at least was pressuring forward. She didn't care that she was getting damaged. She didn't care that she was getting punched in her mouth. And I know she lost that fight, but she at least showed me that she is capable of being able to really bite down the mouthpiece and just go for it. At least try to win. Where Lipski, she's pretty. I like her fight style, and she beat Melissa Gatto, but Gatto looks like she's malnourished to me. But she also beat JJ Aldrich, which is a very good win. But Casey O'Neill, man, I just think she's a tough female, and that goes a long way in women's MMA. It simply does. Not to say Lipski isn't tough in any way, but she lost to Priscilla Cachoeira, which that's the same kind of girl like Casey O'Neill is, just not probably the same orientation, if you know what I mean. But I think Casey O'Neill just will have that pressure-heavy style, and she'll be able to back up Lipski and just land good shots. Lipski hasn't looked still incredibly impressive, even against a malnourished Melissa Gatto. It wasn't even that impressive of a win in the first place. I think Casey O'Neill just is... she's her, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of a better word to say it. But moving on, Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. I'm taking Cody Garbrandt here. Kelleher just right now is getting old in his career. I mean, he lost to Bautista, which Bautista is actually a really underrated bantamweight. Don't get me wrong, but lost to Umar, which is, again, a good bantamweight. So Brian Kelleher has lost to good competition, but I think Cody Garbrandt has now made that switch in his career. Like, he wants to actually not get chinned anymore. And like, he's willing at this point, he's willing to just sit back and just fight a very dull fight. Cody Garbrandt is willing to not throw a single punch in an entire round and just only land leg kicks and stay out of range just so that he doesn't get chinned at all. And I think Brian Kelleher, with mainly being a grappler and Cody Garbrandt just being this super athletic guy, I think he'll be able to stuff his takedowns and just kind of outpoint Brian Kelleher, maybe chin him. I don't think Cody Garbrandt will go for it because I think he's worried about his own chin, which, to be fair, he has a very bad chin. Cody no chin is actually a real deal or a real thing. So I think this new kind of slow-paced Cody Garbrandt will be able to, I guess, outpoint. Dude, I'm kind of expecting a boring card here. I'm going to do a little tangent real quick. This card actually might be a super lame card when I think about it. I think a lot of these fights probably will go to decision. Like right now, I'm scrolling through the card again, and just like most of these fights might end up being a decision. I don't know. It might just be a really boring card. Hopefully not. Hopefully we see some nice KOs and some nice submissions and some good wars back and forth. But overall, this card might be pretty lame and might not live up to expectations at all. But back to the fight. I'm taking Cody Garbrandt. I think he'll be able to outpoint Brian Kelleher. Moving on up next, we have Irene Aldana versus Karol Rosa. Fucking hell, man. I'm taking Karol Rosa. Dude, Irene Aldana looked absolutely abysmal against Amanda Nunes. Say what you want. Say that she was scared of Amanda Nunes. Say that she had this fear in her. Like, I don't care. You just can't show up to a fight and look that bad. She had no takedown defense. She had nothing on the feet. She just didn't have anything for her. I don't think she even tried to win that fight. Honestly, I think Irene Aldana was just happy to be there. And that just tells me that, I don't know, man. I'm taking Karol Rosa. Don't think too much about it. I mean, she beat Gianna Santos, which is not even a good fucking win anymore. I don't know. She beat Norma Dumont, or she lost to Norma Dumont, which she's a good fighter, I guess. I don't know. Irene Aldana, she beat, dude, this fight is just shit. I don't know, man. I'm taking Karol Rosa. Fuck it, bro. By decision, 30-27. We'll move on, bro, to a better fight and actually a good fight. Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. I'm taking Bryce Mitchell here. I think Emmett probably took some irreversible damage against Ilia Topuria. He got his ass beat pretty bad throughout that 5 rounds, and Topuria was landing some big shots on him. He got kind of, I wouldn't say embarrassed, but he got pretty badly shown that there's levels at featherweight right now. And Ilia Topuria is that next level, and he just couldn't really land anything on him. I don't know. Like, when I think about skill and just striking ability, I think Josh Emmett is better. And Bryce Mitchell's striking really isn't that crazy, but they both lost to Ilia Topuria. And I guess arguably you can say that Emmett looked better because he survived actual 5 rounds, whereas Mitchell only survived, 2 rounds against Topuria. Sorry, excuse me. But again, I don't know. Like, how well can Bryce Mitchell grapple up Josh Emmett? That's his go-to. That's his mainstay in the division, is being able to take people down and control them. So can Bryce Mitchell get down Josh Emmett, who does have good wrestling credentials here? So that's the big, X factor or a wild card in this fight. And I think Bryce Mitchell might not be able to get down Josh Emmett, but I think he might be able to. I don't know, bro, because when I think about this, I just don't really see Bryce Mitchell being able to outstrike Josh Emmett. It's just weird, bro. I want to take Josh Emmett here. I think he is better on the feet, but he's getting old. 38 years of age is pretty old at featherweight. Typically, you don't have much success when you reach that age, but Bryce Mitchell just is. He's good, man. I just don't want to doubt Bryce Mitchell, man. I just really don't want to doubt him right now. So I'm going to take Bryce Mitchell. I think at some point he probably will get down Josh Emmett. And Josh Emmett right now, like, he showed some grit. Like, he still wants to keep fighting. He still wants to be a top contender against Ilia Topuria. I mean, he was very tough throughout that entire fight, getting hurt on multiple occasions and being able to push through. Getting beat up pretty badly is really impressive, but he took so much damage in that, man. I don't think he'll ever be the same. So I'm taking Bryce Mitchell to win by, again, decision. But moving on to the main card, Vicente Luque versus Garry. Now, I have a lot to say about this fight, but I will keep it simple. I'm taking Garry. taking Ian Garry. I think that he is overall just an improving fighter. Regardless, I don't care about his wife's situation. I don't care about who he is outside of the octagon. Inside the octagon, he is a menace, man. He's a force to be reckoned with right now. And I think Luque, dude, just had like a brain hemorrhage like not too long ago. He beat RDA, but it wasn't like this most impressive win you've ever seen. It was just like, yeah, he was able to, outpoint him and actually get takedowns on RDA, which was pretty funny, or go for takedowns. But it was just a lame, boring fight. But Jeff Neal really badly messed him up. I mean, really, go back and watch that fight if you have the time. Dude, Jeff Neal was landing, insane combos, 1-2s down the pipe. It would rock Luque. The uppercut finish was, dude, it was just bad, and it actually gave Luque a brain hemorrhage. Listen, like 1 year ago, a little bit over a year and a half ago, a little bit under a year and a half ago, like there was talks that Luque would never fight again because he was so badly beaten up by Jeff Neal with that brain hemorrhage. Like, I just don't know if he can get that out of his head that he almost died pretty much a year ago, or almost had his career ended almost a year ago. And Ian Garry, man, I know that they were, I wouldn't say training partners, but I know they were at the same gym for a little bit of time. But Ian Garry just is a different kind of breed right now, dude. Like he made a complete mockery out of Neil Magny, which I know the press conference was a bit, annoying from Ian Garry, but in that fight alone, just talking strictly about the fight, he embarrassed Neil Magny, just constant leg kicks, taking his legs out and just embarrassing. Daniel Rodriguez was probably his best performance of his career. He landed a nasty head kick on D-Rod, and D-Rod actually isn't a fucking joke at welterweight, man. Like he's making these guys who are ranked top 15 guys at welterweight look like absolute jokes. And I think that Ian Garry is on a different level right now compared to Vicente Luque. But Luque, if you want to place a bet on Luque, man, Luque has an insane amount of power. He can definitely one punch KO Ian Garry here, because guess what? Song Kenan did it. And if anybody else can do it that's comparative to Song Kenan, it's Vicente Luque. He has, I think, more power than Song Kenan, and that left hook can land on the button, and it can put Ian Garry out. Because, listen, looking at Ian Garry, I don't think that he has the best chin. I don't think he ever will have the best chin at welterweight, but I think that Luque just is a bit outmatched here and just doesn't have the skill set to make up for it and to be able to beat Garry. I think if Luque is going to win this fight, he's going to have to do it by first round KO, which I'm just not willing to bet. I'm taking Ian Garry probably by third round TKO. I think when Ian Garry gets to that third round, he really picks up the pace and he goes for that finish. If he sees his opponent like on the ropes or like kind of falling back or falling behind, he actually goes for that finish. And I think Ian Garry will get it this time. And I think he'll finish Vicente Luque by third round TKO. Moving on up the card, Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm taking Paddy Pimblett. Do I need to explain this? Honestly, Tony Ferguson is just washed up old. Hasn't won a fight in like over 2 years, 3 years. It's been ridiculous, man. I mean, Paddy Pimblett is not really, in my opinion, good. Like I think he lost to Jared Gordon, but Tony Ferguson has not been anything. And I don't know why. I'll say this real quickly. I don't know why Tony Ferguson decided to train with what's his face? David Goggins, my bad. I don't know why Tony Ferguson decided to go into a training camp with David Goggins. David Goggins isn't going to get him better at fighting. Like, yeah, he might have better cardio, but Tony Ferguson has always had good cardio. So I don't understand the point of him going to train with David Goggins. Yeah, maybe he needs that huge mental uplifting and just feel like a tough guy again, maybe because he's been losing so many fights. But I think he needs to actually sit down and have a reality check with himself, and that maybe his career is done, for one. But secondly, if he wants to get another win in the UFC, he probably should do it by, improving his striking, because he has holes in his striking game. Maybe working on his takedown defense would be very beneficial to him, but he just doesn't seem to want to acknowledge the real things. And I think Paddy Pimblett, even though I think that he is very bad, and I think very, very bad on the feet, I think he has what it takes to grapple up Tony Ferguson. And I think he'll be able to take him down probably with a judo throw and just be able to work Tony Ferguson down, because if Bobby Green, of all people, Bobby Green does not shoot takedowns. He does not get people down. But if Bobby Green is submitting you, there's issues, bro. And there's one thing that Paddy Pimblett's good at, man, is jiu-jitsu. And I think he'll be able to submit Tony Ferguson probably by first round submission. I hate saying it, man. I love Tony Ferguson, but it's time for him to really sit down and just call it a career, man. Like, who cares? You've been on what is it, a 6-fight losing streak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-fight losing streak. It's just, it's done. It's done, Tony. Like, listen, it's over. If you lose to Paddy Pimblett, you have to retire. You simply have to retire. But moving on to the next fight, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm taking Shavkat. I think he'll be able to grapple up Wonderboy. Wonderboy just doesn't seem to me like he has a good chin anymore. I mean, Kevin Holland dropped him, but if Kevin Holland wanted to win that fight, listen, a heart-to-heart real quick. If Kevin Holland wasn't such a coping soy boy in that fight against Wonderboy, he could have taken him down. He could have sat on top and he could have beaten Wonderboy, but he chose not to for some odd reason. Like, he had Wonderboy down at times and he was on top and he opted to get back up. And now if that's Shavkat, he will sit in half guard, full guard, and he will just beat up Wonderboy for 3 rounds. And I think on the feet, Shavkat has a lot of power and I think he has a really good chin. So I don't see Wonderboy being able to chin him. Maybe Wonderboy can outpoint him on the feet, which is a certain possibility, but Wonderboy is also 40 years old. He's going to be slowing down in his career. Shavkat is young, up and coming. He is good. He has a great chin. And against Jeff Neal, Jeff Neal's a really good win for Shavkat. Against Jeff Neal, he showed that he can hang with the best of them. That Shavkat on the feet is a legitimate striker, and I think that he can take it to Wonderboy and possibly land a good shot and put him down. It is risky because Wonderboy just can expose some of these young guys, but I think Shavkat just has that skill set. He's undefeated right now. Like, he is a minus 550 favorite on odds. Like, this dude has, like, everybody pretty much believes in him. And I think if everyone's believing in him, I think I just have to believe in him too. Not really. I just think that Shavkat is willing to take this to the ground. And I think that's where Wonderboy will lose a lot of his fights. And I think we're going to see Shavkat just beat him up on the ground. Wonderboy is smart enough to stay safe on the ground, but I don't think he'll be able to get back up against Shavkat. So I'm taking Shavkat probably by, I want to say submission, but I'll probably say a 3-round decision, with Wonderboy having some success on the feet in between those grappling exchanges. But overall, Shavkat getting takedowns or getting Wonderboy down at times and just beating him up in half guard, full guard, whatever you need. Maybe getting the back at one point, just using the clinch, just having like one hook in against the cage, just being able to do it like the way Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad did it to Wonderboy, just being able to basically just beat him up on the ground. But moving on to our co-main event for the flyweight championship, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval 2. I'm taking Pantoja, but I'm worried. I'm really worried. If you go back and rewatch their first fight that they had in the UFC, Brandon Royval was looking really good on the feet, and I think Pantoja was on his way to gassing. He couldn't really get down Royval. Like, he got him down, but he couldn't really hold him down and get control time, and it took like him pulling a weird submission out of the fire to beat Brandon Royval. I just don't know if he can do that again. If Brandon Royval can do what he did last time and just refuse to be held down and just scramble and Grammy roll all over the place and Pantoja gasses out, if he can do that and land good shots on him, he can win this fight, because Royval is always a good dog to pick. He's really spontaneous and just can do things out of nowhere. And I think Pantoja, like, he was really struggling against Royval, but I think Pantoja just he looked so good. Not really so good, but he looked good against Moreno. I think beating Moreno is just, I think Moreno would probably pretty easily beat Royval. I think Pantoja taking it to him like that and grappling him up. I think Pantoja has upgraded his grappling a little bit, and I think he is one of the most underrated fighters on the entirety of the roster, maybe even on the championship list. I mean, I think Pantoja is kind of up there, dude. And I can see the same thing happening with Royval. I think Pantoja will be able to get him down and just find a way, just somehow, some way, get control. Maybe Royval might roll into a bad scramble and then get his back taken by Pantoja. That's certainly a possibility because Royval is he Grammy rolls so much and just scrambles so hard. I think he might scramble himself into a back take and into a choke. And I think it might happen again. If not that, I think Pantoja just probably will hold him down for all 5 rounds. But I think Pantoja will get this done by submission. I'm going 3rd round submission where Pantoja is looking a bit gassy again like he did in the first fight, but be able to grit down and pull it out the fire and really submit Royval before he absolutely gasses out. So I'll take Alexandre Pantoja by 3rd round submission. Moving on to the main event, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Now, I won't say too much about this because I have a whole separate video to make about it where I will give a more in-depth and more detailed prediction to this, but I'm taking Leon Edwards, man. I think Colby Covington, I know people want to say this all the time about Colby that, oh, he hasn't beat anybody good since 2019, or he hasn't fought like a ranked guy since forever. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But that's not why I'm taking Leon Edwards. I think fundamentally, Colby Covington is a worse matchup than Kamaru Usman. Listen, Colby Covington to me just doesn't have the power to make Leon Edwards fear him. I know that the grappling style is there and that Leon Edwards will be pretty switched on to the takedowns of Colby Covington, but to me, it just seems like you kind of need something else than just grappling to beat Leon Edwards. I do believe that Colby Covington is a better, I wouldn't say better wrestler, but it does have the better wrestling than Kamaru Usman offensively, at least, because Colby Covington, he won't just stop at one takedown. If he fails that first takedown, he'll transition into like a single leg. Let's say he goes for double leg and he gets the stuff. He'll transition into a single leg and just go from there. You know what I mean? Like, I think Leon Edwards will have more of his hands full with the grappling, but I don't think that it will be enough to win the fight. Colby Covington just doesn't do enough damage, right? Like, he can grapple, but I think most of this fight will be Colby Covington just failing takedowns or maybe getting Leon Edwards down for a moment, but Leon popping right back up and just back to that leg kick, back to that body kick, back to that head kick, 1-2s, stay at range, move around the cage. Eventually Colby Covington going for another takedown, but this time Leon Edwards stuffs it, and then just more of Leon Edwards just outpointing Colby Covington throughout the entirety of the 5 rounds. Like, I think if Colby Covington had power on the feet, I probably would take Colby Covington here, but he just doesn't have that power to really make Leon Edwards fear the striking exchanges. So I'm taking Leon Edwards by 5-round decision. I'll do a more in-depth detailed again in another video later in the week, but right now I'm taking Leon Edwards by 5-round decision. Probably it's going to be a boring one, which is going to be mostly Colby just against the cage with Leon just going for singles and double legs, and maybe he might do some out in the open, but just mainly a snooze fest of a fight. Probably what's going to be happening with this. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching this video up to this point. Dude, it's been a long video. I appreciate you if you got this far into it. I'm out of here though. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications so you get notified every single time that I post a video. Again, join the members if you want to see this more laid out in a more paper format. If you want to do that, again, link in the description. Memberships would be appreciated by me. But I'm out of here, guys. Peace.